Welcome back to HFY Genesis, where the journey into the unknown continues. In Part 1, we uncovered a vault that could change the course of humanity. An ancient storehouse of knowledge and power, hidden for millennia, was finally unlocked by Dr. Elena Sanchez and her team. But what they discovered raised more questions than answers. What exactly was the vault meant to protect? And what consequences would humanity face for accessing its secrets? Now, the story takes a deeper turn. The vault's call isn't just a whisper in the wind, it's a powerful force that beckons to all of humanity. What's inside? And what happens when we go further down the rabbit hole? Let's dive deeper as we continue exploring the human vault's secrets hidden in the universe. Throughout the annals of history, certain mysteries were too dangerous to be left in the hands of ordinary men and women. And so, they were hidden, locked away in places no one could find. Among these was the human vault, a repository of knowledge and power that had been carefully guarded for centuries, if not millennia. The vault was more than just a secret, it was a legacy, one that had been entrusted to an unbroken line of guardians who understood the grave responsibility of keeping its contents hidden. The earliest traces of these guardians can be found in the ancient world, where societies that predated written history already knew of the vault's existence. Some believed it to be the work of gods, a divine gift that should never be tampered with by human hands. Others saw it as a curse, a reminder that humanity was not yet ready to unlock the secrets it contained. In ancient Egypt, the high priests of Ra whispered of a hidden vault beneath the sands, guarded by creatures that were said to be both human and divine. The ancient Sumerians, too, kept the secret of the vault, passed down through generations in encrypted texts and buried deep within the sacred ziggurats of their cities. These early guardians didn't just protect knowledge, they safeguarded the very fabric of human evolution. As time marched on and civilizations rose and fell, the guardians adapted, their methods becoming more sophisticated and their efforts even more secretive. The first recorded attempt to unearth the vault came from Alexander the Great, whose insatiable thirst for knowledge led him to many corners of the known world. However, even he, with all his military might and genius, could not uncover the vault. The Guardians had already anticipated such an attempt and had set in place measures to keep the vault's exact location a secret. Ancient texts hint that Alexander's search ended in frustration, his quest for the vault thwarted by cryptic riddles and hidden symbols that only the most enlightened minds could decode. As the centuries progressed, the vault's location shifted in and out of obscurity, but the Guardians remained steadfast. The Middle Ages saw the rise of secret orders like the Templars, who were believed by some to have stumbled upon the knowledge of the vault but were sworn to keep it hidden from the public. These secretive brotherhoods, sworn to protect the knowledge, passed down their duties through coded rituals and ancient texts. They understood that the vault was not merely a treasure trove of advanced technology or wisdom, it was a test. They knew that unlocking the vault's power could be humanity's salvation or its doom. The Guardians didn't just protect knowledge, they ensured that no one could access it without understanding the consequences of such a discovery. With the dawn of the modern era, the Guardians' role became even more critical. As the world saw the rise of technological advancements and scientific breakthroughs, the temptation to find and unlock the vault grew stronger. The Guardians adapted to this new world. Rather than hiding behind veils of myth and secrecy, they embedded themselves within the world's most powerful institutions, governments, universities, and private corporations. They ensured that the vault's location remained a well-guarded secret, locked behind layers of complexity and obfuscation. But even with these advancements, the vault's presence was always felt in the shadows, its mysteries never truly forgotten. By the time Dr. Elena Sanchez and her crew stumbled upon the vault in the modern day, they were not the first to come close. The vault had been sought after for centuries, but none had succeeded in breaching its defenses. What made Elena and her crew different was their unparalleled curiosity and relentless pursuit of knowledge. They did not stumble upon the vault, they were drawn to it, guided by fragmented maps, cryptic data, and anomalies that no one else had noticed. The vault's guardians, watching from the shadows, knew this day would come. They had prepared for it, but they also knew it would be the crew's decisions that would determine whether humanity would survive the consequences of unlocking the vault. The vault was now open, but who would control its power? Would humanity learn from the past, or would it fall victim to the same hubris that had doomed those who came before? The story of the Guardians was far from over, and it was now up to Dr. Sanchez and her crew to decide the future of humanity. The vault was no ordinary relic. It wasn't simply an ancient structure filled with forgotten treasures or relics of a lost civilization. It was a carefully constructed archive containing knowledge that spanned the entire history of the universe, waiting for a moment in time when humanity would be capable of understanding and, more importantly, controlling what lay within. But before Dr. Elena Sanchez and her team even stepped foot into its chambers, they had to comprehend that the vault was not just a one-dimensional object, it was a complex, multi-dimensional puzzle, a place of power, secrets, and tests. Each compartment within the vault was unique, filled with information, artifacts, and technologies that spanned the boundaries of human understanding. The first compartment they accessed seemed deceptively simple. It was a room filled with what appeared to be star charts, constellations, and galactic maps. But as the crew studied the data, they realized that the maps weren't merely showing locations, they were dynamic, constantly shifting, updating in real time. These maps weren't bound by earthly concepts of time or space. They were living records of the universe itself, capturing the ebb and flow of galaxies, stars, and cosmic events as they happened. It was as though the vault had been connected to the universe's very heartbeat, its rhythms etched in the vault's walls, forever preserved. What struck Dr. Sanchez the most, however, wasn't the sheer scale of the maps, it was the realization that these star charts seemed to point to places humanity had never dreamed of, places beyond the known cosmos, suggesting pathways to realms of existence that were outside their reality. Was this a gift from a civilization that had unlocked interdimensional travel? Or was it a map of the future, guiding humanity to points in time and space that they had yet to discover? The implications were staggering. If humanity could master the information contained in this compartment, they could not only travel across galaxies but also bend time itself. As they moved deeper into the vault, the crew uncovered other compartments, each one more perplexing and awe-inspiring than the last. One compartment, for instance, contained what appeared to be the remains of a creature unlike anything they'd ever seen. The creature's genetic material was incomprehensible, as though it had evolved from a blueprint far outside the human genome. There were no obvious ties to Earth's evolutionary tree, no known species from which it could have descended. Yet the creature's features seemed familiar, bearing a disturbing resemblance to certain ancient Earth creatures, but with enhancements that suggested it had been modified, genetically engineered, perhaps by an alien race that had mastered biology far beyond what humanity had yet achieved. In another compartment, the team discovered a series of ancient devices, mechanisms that seemed to defy the laws of physics as they understood them. Some appeared to be energy sources of unimaginable power, while others looked like complex instruments of communication, perhaps capable of sending information across galaxies or dimensions. But the most puzzling part was the fact that these devices seemed designed to interface directly with the human mind. The crew speculated that they were meant to amplify human cognitive abilities or even alter the brain's functioning, allowing individuals to process vast amounts of data, perceive other dimensions, or access latent mental abilities. If such technology were released to the public, it could reshape the human experience, elevating some to godlike status while leaving others far behind. Yet despite the promise of the vault's contents, there was an undeniable sense of danger that hung in the air. The vault was a treasure trove of untold knowledge and power, but as the crew continued their exploration, they began to sense that something wasn't right. There were subtle warnings embedded within the contents, encrypted messages hidden in the data they uncovered. The vault's creators, whoever they were, had left more than just knowledge behind. They had embedded a challenge within the vault's very design. The technology, the genetic blueprints, the cosmic maps, everything had been placed there not as a gift, but as a test. A test to see if humanity was ready to handle what lay within. The deeper they ventured into the vault, the more they realized that it wasn't just a place of discovery. It was a place of judgment. The compartments were not just containers of information, they were the guardians of the future. To use the vault's knowledge was to gamble with humanity's future, and the cost of failure could be far more than they were prepared to pay. The crew was beginning to understand that the vault was not merely an archive, it was a living, breathing entity, one that was watching them as much as they were watching it. The more they uncovered, the more Elena and her team wrestled with the implications of their discoveries. The vault had been left behind by a civilization that had known the dangers of such knowledge, and now the responsibility had passed to them. Would they rise to the challenge? Or would humanity succumb to the same temptations that had destroyed the ancient race who had left the vault behind? The crew knew one thing for certain: the journey ahead would not just change them, it would change everything. As Dr. Elena Sanchez and her team ventured deeper into the vault, they began to uncover the true complexity of the knowledge it contained. Each compartment revealed something new, something that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe and humanity's place within it. But with each discovery, the sense of awe was accompanied by a rising unease. The vault was not just a treasure trove, it was a challenge, an intricate puzzle designed to test the limits of human intellect, morality, and ambition. Elena couldn't shake the feeling that every piece of information they uncovered was not just a gift, but a warning. The next compartment they accessed was one of the vault's most bizarre. It appeared to be a library of sorts, but it wasn't filled with books, scrolls, or data chips. Instead, the walls were covered with holographic projections, each one displaying a different scene from history, or what the team soon realized was a parallel history. As they interacted with the projections, they found that these images were not simply historical records, they were simulations, complex reconstructions of events that had never occurred in their world. The simulations were detailed, almost too detailed, down to the smallest nuance in facial expressions and atmospheric conditions. They depicted humanity's greatest triumphs, but also its darkest moments, decisions made that had led to catastrophic consequences, moments in time that had forever altered the course of civilization. One simulation depicted an alternate version of Earth, where humanity had discovered the vault centuries earlier, and instead of using its knowledge for peace, they had weaponized it. The result was a planet in ruin, ravaged by war, environmental collapse, and the brutal pursuit of power. Elena and her team watched in stunned silence as this alternate Earth teetered on the brink of destruction, the holographic images showing cities in flames, once thriving landscapes reduced to barren wastelands, and people fighting to survive in a world that had lost all hope. It was a vision of what could happen if humanity misused the knowledge in the vault of future, where the pursuit of power, unchecked and unchallenged, led to nothing but ruin. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she considered the implications. This wasn't just a history lesson, it was a warning. The vault wasn't just showing them what had happened, it was showing them what could happen. It was testing them, forcing them to confront the possibility that humanity, despite all its potential, might not be capable of handling such power. As they moved through the simulations, the crew began to realize that the vault wasn't just a collection of data, it was a reflection of humanity's deepest fears and desires, an echo of what could be if they weren't careful. The vault also contained simulations of other civilizations, alien societies that had once faced the same dilemma. Some had used their advanced knowledge for good, creating peaceful, prosperous worlds that had flourished for millennia. Others had succumbed to their own ambition, just as the alternate Earth had. There was a painful irony in these simulations. Those who had learned from their mistakes had left behind a civilization of harmony and wisdom, while those who had ignored the lessons had destroyed themselves, often without even realizing the consequences of their actions until it was too late. It was a pattern that seemed to repeat itself throughout the vault's contents, a pattern of rise and fall, creation and destruction. The crew began to piece together a disturbing truth: the vault's creators had left it behind as a safeguard, but also as a test for the future of humanity. It wasn't just about what was in the vault, it was about who could be trusted with its knowledge. The vault itself seemed to act as a filter, showing only those who were ready for the burden of its secrets, and perhaps more ominously, it had a way of rejecting those who weren't. As Elena continued to study the simulations, she couldn't help but feel as though the vault was alive, in some way watching them, judging them, waiting for them to make the right choice. The knowledge within the vault had the potential to revolutionize human civilization, to unlock advancements in science, technology, and even the very understanding of consciousness itself. But with this knowledge came an undeniable responsibility. Elena and her team were beginning to realize that their mission was not simply about discovery, it was about survival. The vault was not a gift, it was a test. If they failed, humanity could pay the ultimate price. As they continued to explore the vault's many compartments, the stakes grew higher. The crew knew that every decision they made could alter the course of history, perhaps even destroy it. Elena was torn. She understood the power of what they had found, but at what cost? Could humanity be trusted with such knowledge, or would it succumb to the same temptations that had destroyed so many civilizations before them? The question that loomed in her mind was simple yet terrifying. Would they rise to the challenge, or would they too become just another cautionary tale, buried in the forgotten halls of the vault? The deeper the crew delved into the vault, the more they began to understand the true nature of its contents. Each compartment they uncovered seemed to contain not just physical artifacts or knowledge, but insights into the very fabric of existence itself. It was becoming clear that the vault was not just a repository of information, it was an archive of humanity's potential, its failures, and its destiny. But as they continued their exploration, the crew started to question whether the vault's legacy was one of salvation or destruction. The knowledge they were uncovering wasn't merely theoretical or academic, it was deeply intertwined with the human experience, and its implications were becoming ever more apparent. One of the most profound discoveries came in a compartment that, at first glance, appeared to be empty. But as the crew examined it more closely, they noticed that the walls seemed to shimmer, as if the entire space were somehow alive. After hours of careful study, they realized that the compartment was a living record of human consciousness itself. It was not just a collection of data or ideas, it was an imprint of every thought, every memory, every emotion ever experienced by the human race. It was as though the vault had captured the essence of humanity's collective consciousness, preserving it for eternity. The walls of this compartment were covered with intricate patterns, almost like neural pathways, constantly shifting and reconfiguring themselves. As Elena and her team interacted with the walls, they realized that they were not simply observing a static record, they were communicating with it, tapping into a vast, interconnected network of human experiences. It was a hauntingly beautiful realization. The vault contained the consciousness of every human being who had ever lived, from the first to the last, stored in a form that transcended time and space. The implications were staggering. If they could access this collective consciousness, they could tap into the wisdom, creativity, and knowledge of all human history. They could solve problems, unlock secrets, and even predict the future. But the more they explored this compartment, the more they realized that there were darker undercurrents beneath the surface. The human consciousness stored within the vault wasn't just a collection of knowledge, it was a reflection of humanity's deepest fears, desires, and flaws. As they sifted through the data, the crew began to uncover memories of violence, hatred, greed, and despair. The vault wasn't just a storehouse of human achievement, it was a mirror, showing both the best and worst of the human condition. And as Elena continued to interact with the consciousness within the vault, she felt something stirring within her own mind, a pull towards the darker aspects of her own nature. It was as though the vault was testing her, challenging her to confront not only the history of humanity, but also the darkness within herself. The vault's legacy was not just about the potential for greatness, it was about the cost of that greatness. The knowledge contained within it was so powerful, so transformative, that it could elevate humanity to heights of unimaginable achievement. But it also had the potential to destroy everything if used recklessly. The crew began to realize that the vault was not merely a tool to be used, it was a responsibility, a burden that could either save or damn the human race. They had to ask themselves, were they ready to wield this knowledge? Were they capable of using it wisely? Elena's mind raced as she considered the implications of what they had uncovered. The vault's contents were not simply data points or scientific discoveries, they were moral and ethical dilemmas, questions of how far humanity was willing to go in its pursuit of power. They had seen glimpses of a future where humanity could harness the vault's knowledge to cure diseases, travel across the stars, and unlock the secrets of the universe. But they had also seen what happened when civilizations abused that knowledge, worlds ravaged by war, societies torn apart by greed and corruption. The vault had shown them both sides of the coin, and now it was up to them to decide which path humanity would take. As Alina stared at the shimmering walls of the compartment, she felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. It was no longer just about the vault, it was about the future of humanity. The knowledge contained within the vault had the power to reshape everything, but only if they could learn to use it without falling victim to the same mistakes that had plagued every civilization before them. The crew knew that they had to tread carefully. The vault was not just a treasure, it was a test, and if they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. The more they uncovered, the more Alina realized that their journey was not just about exploring the vault, it was about confronting the very essence of what it meant to be human. Would they rise to the challenge, or would they succumb to the same temptations that had brought other civilizations to ruin? The vault had shown them what was possible, but it had also shown them what was at stake. The fate of humanity rested in their hands, and the burden was heavier than any of them could have imagined. The deeper the crew ventured into the vault, the more they realized that each discovery was not just a revelation, it was a profound test of their understanding of power and responsibility. The information they uncovered wasn't merely knowledge, it was a mirror reflecting humanity's darkest impulses and greatest potential. But the more they learned, the more they began to see the profound implications of what they had uncovered. Every piece of knowledge within the vault seemed to come with an unspoken question: could humanity handle it? Could they use this power responsibly, or would they fall victim to the same flaws that had destroyed other civilizations? One of the most unsettling discoveries came when the crew accessed a new chamber, a chamber that seemed to pulse with a strange, almost electric energy. Inside, they found a series of crystalline structures, each one containing a unique form of energy that seemed to resonate with the crew's very emotions. At first, it was unclear what these crystalline structures were, but as they began to study them, they realized they were not merely objects, they were something more. They were keys, holding the potential to unlock an energy source unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The energy contained within the crystals was vast, almost infinite. It had the potential to power entire civilizations for millennia, to revolutionize space travel, and even to create technologies that could bend the very fabric of reality. But the deeper the crew investigated, the more they began to understand that this energy wasn't just a resource, it was a weapon. The energy contained within the crystals was so powerful that it could wipe out entire planets if misused. It was the kind of power that could reshape the universe itself, but at a terrible cost. Alina's mind raced as she processed the implications of what they had found. The crystals weren't just a discovery, they were a moral dilemma. The crew had the power to harness this energy, to use it for the betterment of humanity, or to keep it hidden, ensuring that it would never fall into the wrong hands. But there was no clear answer. The crystals represented both the potential for humanity's greatest achievement and the risk of its greatest downfall. It was as though the vault had placed the burden of this decision squarely on their shoulders, testing their ability to wield such power without succumbing to the temptation of using it for selfish gain. As Alina considered the implications, she couldn't shake the feeling that the vault was watching them, assessing their every move. It was as if the vault itself had a will, a consciousness that was guiding them, forcing them to confront their own weaknesses. The more they unlocked, the more Alina realized that the vault wasn't just an archive, it was a test. The crystals, the knowledge, the simulations, they were all part of a greater challenge. The vault was designed not only to store knowledge, but to measure the character of those who would unlock it. The future of humanity didn't rest solely on what was found, it depended on how it was used. The crew's journey was becoming increasingly perilous. They were no longer just explorers, they were the stewards of a power that could either elevate humanity to unimaginable heights or destroy everything in its wake. The responsibility was crushing, and the weight of their choices was starting to take its toll. Alina knew that their time in the vault was limited. They had to decide whether to use the knowledge they had uncovered or to seal it away forever, to ensure that humanity would have the chance to grow and mature before they could face the dangers of such power. But with each passing day, the temptation to unlock more, to use the knowledge to reshape the world, grew stronger. The crew's discussions became more heated as they debated what to do next. Some were eager to share the vault's secrets with the world, believing that humanity was ready for the power it contained. Others were more cautious, warning that mankind had shown time and again that it was too flawed to wield such power without consequences. It was clear that their differing views were creating rifts within the team. The vault had already shown them glimpses of the future, both the hopeful and the disastrous, but the ultimate decision lay with them. They were the ones who had uncovered the secrets, and they were the ones who would determine humanity's fate. As Elena stood in the heart of the vault, staring at the crystalline structures that held the potential to change everything, she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. The vault had unlocked secrets that could elevate humanity to heights beyond imagination, but at what cost? She had seen the destruction that could result from unchecked power, but she had also seen the hope that could spring from wisdom and restraint. The crew was at a crossroads, and the decision they made would not only shape their future, it would shape the future of what shaped the future of all mankind. The question now was simple: were they ready? Could humanity be trusted with the knowledge they had unlocked? Or was it better to leave the vault's secrets sealed forever, ensuring that humanity would be forced to chart its own path without the dangers of untamed power guiding them? Elena knew one thing for certain: the answers wouldn't come easily. The vault had given them the keys to the universe, but the true test lay in how they would choose to use them. It's humble request for subscribe my channel. I need too much support. Thanks for watching HFY Genesis.